Have you ever considered that everything you see around you right now might actually be just an illusion? The phone on your desk, the coffee cup you hold, the banknote in your pocket, or the tiny tear that trickles down your cheek. They all seem smooth, ordinary, and familiar to you. Because the human eye cannot see beyond a certain resolution, we perceive the world only as detailed as our brains can interpret it. Yet reality is far more complex than what we see. Now imagine, thanks to technology, your body shrinks millions of times. It shrinks a little more every second, while the objects around you begin to transform into gigantic structures. A grain of dust is no longer a small rock, but an insurmountable mountain. A strand of hair becomes as thick as the trunk of a giant tree. A drop of water transforms into a world the size of an ocean. Eventually, you reach a point where you no longer see the world with your eyes, but with the vision of an electron microscope. At that very moment, your home, the things you use, and even your own body become a completely foreign planet. This is where the most fascinating aspect of science begins. Because a microscope doesn't just magnify objects, it reshapes everything you thought you knew about reality. Today, we'll embark on a journey into the invisible universes hidden within the ordinary objects we touch every day. If you're ready, our first stop is our smartphone, which we almost never leave out of our pockets. When you look at your phone screen, you probably see a black, shiny glass. You swipe your fingers across the screen, write messages, watch videos, and perhaps you're watching this video right now on that same screen. This surface, which appears perfectly flat to you, transforms into a completely different world under the microscope. When we magnify it millions of times, the screen is no longer a single piece of glass. Millions of tiny structures appear, stretching as if to infinity. These are the red, green, and blue subpixels that make up images. Each one seems meaningless on its own, but when they work together, they form every photo, every video, and every letter you see. When viewed closely, these pixels look like a futuristic city with orderly streets. This structure, a perfect example of engineering, is too small for the human eye to perceive. But even the pixels aren't the most interesting part. Every time you use your phone, a thin layer of invisible oil spreads from your fingertips across the screen. Under a microscope, this oil layer resembles vast, winding rivers. Each touch leaves new traces. Throughout the day, dust particles from the air settle on the phone you carry in your pocket. These particles, too small to be seen with the naked eye, become giant rocks, fibers, and complex shapes when magnified. Moreover, the surface you think is glass isn't actually perfect. Because of constant friction, microscopic scratches form on it. When these scratches are magnified, they resemble deep canyons, sharp cliffs, and cracks stretching for miles. While you think you're just cleaning your screen, you're actually navigating an invisible world. The phone you touch hundreds of times every day is built upon a landscape so complex that you can never perceive it with the naked eye. But this is only the beginning. Because what we are about to examine is not just a technological object, it is one of the most interesting fluids produced by the human body itself. We have all cried at some point in our lives. Sometimes from happiness, sometimes from pain, and sometimes for no reason at all. Our eyes fill with tears. Tears seem to us to be just a few drops of water. However, in reality, tears are one of the most complex biological fluids produced by the human body. They contain more than just water, salts, proteins, fat molecules, enzymes, minerals, and antibacterial substances that protect our eyes from infections are all present in the same drop. When you place a drop of tear under a microscope, you initially see a clear liquid. But as time passes and the water slowly begins to evaporate, the real miracle unfolds. The minerals and salts dissolved in the liquid begin to rearrange themselves, not randomly, but according to specific physical laws. Within minutes, fascinating crystal patterns form. These patterns sometimes resemble a snowflake, sometimes a branching tree, and sometimes the cracks in the ice of a frozen river. These shapes, which have never been created by an artist, are entirely the work of nature. Moreover, not every person's tears form the same pattern. Because the composition of tears can vary slightly depending on age, nutrition, health status, and even the emotion being experienced at that moment. Scientists can even detect early signs of some diseases by studying tears. So, a tiny drop that trickles from your eye can carry a biological message silently revealing not only your emotions but also the state of your body's health. Now, pause and think for a moment. We just looked closely at two ordinary objects, a phone screen and a tiny tear. But both held vast and fascinating universes within themselves. And what about the surface of a coffee bean that you grind or inhale the scent of every morning? At first glance, that small bean appears hard and rough, but it also holds a whole new world waiting to be discovered. In the next section, we will turn the microscope's lens to the coffee bean, and together we will discover why this seemingly ordinary seed has such a complex structure that even scientists are amazed by it. When you pick up a tiny coffee bean, you probably only see a dark brown, hard, and rough seed. But now, it shrinks again, and we step into the invisible universe that the microscope takes us to. As we get closer to the coffee bean, its surface grows and grows, and finally, a vast mountain range appears before us. The bean, just a few millimeters in size, has now transformed into a rocky continent stretching for kilometers. On closer inspection, it becomes clear that the surface is not actually flat. It consists of deep valleys, sharp cliffs, curves resembling lava flows, and countless pores. These pores are not randomly formed voids. During the roasting process, the water inside the bean evaporates, gases expand, and cell walls undergo changes. It is within this complex structure that the oils and volatile compounds that carry coffee's unique aroma are stored. What a barista calls fruity aroma, chocolate notes, or floral taste, is based on these incredible changes occurring on a microscopic scale. Each roasting degree shapes the internal architecture of the bean differently. Lightly roasted beans have a tighter, more regular structure, while dark roasted beans have a more brittle, cracked, and porous surface. When you take your first sip in the morning, you only smell the aroma of the coffee, but in the microscopic world, this scent is a silent journey of molecules released from millions of tiny spaces into the air. Perhaps that's why the aroma of freshly ground coffee is so captivating. Each grinding stroke releases thousands of previously trapped aromatic molecules. Behind a cup of coffee lies a complex engineering process never seen by the naked eye. Now we reach into our pockets and pull out a banknote that we touch dozens of times every day. Paper money appears thin, smooth, and ordinary to us. However, under a microscope, this thin surface transforms into an almost intricate architectural structure. At first glance, a giant network of thick, interwoven fibers catches the eye. Most of these fibers are made of cotton or specially manufactured durable materials. Although the fibers appear randomly distributed, they actually form a multi-layered skeleton that supports each other. Thanks to this structure, a banknote can be folded hundreds or even thousands of times, carried in your pocket, and used for years. As we look closer, the security stripes appear. These stripes, which appear to the naked eye as only thin, shiny lines, have extremely complex patterns on a microscopic scale. Even more surprising are the microtexts. They are so small that most people are unaware of their existence. These texts are just one of the security measures developed to prevent counterfeiting. But banknotes don't only contain structures added during production. A banknote that circulates from hand to hand for days, weeks, and years also carries an invisible history. Fabric fibers, pollen, tiny dust particles, microscopic debris from the environment, and cells shed from human skin cling to surfaces over time. Each banknote silently collects a trace from every hand it passes through. When viewed under a microscope, a single banknote can hold countless microscopic particles carried from different cities, different homes, and different people. It feels as if you are examining not money, but an invisible travel diary. Now we're approaching a single strand of hair, a structure you see every time you look in the mirror but never truly understand. From a distance, hair appears fine and smooth. However, as soon as we magnify it, this image changes completely. Even at a magnification of several hundred times, it becomes clear that the surface is not smooth. As we zoom in further, it becomes apparent that the hair strand is covered with thousands of tiny keratin scales stacked on top of each other. This structure resembles a pine cone or stacked tiles. In healthy hair, these scales are tightly closed and reflect light evenly, making the hair appear shiny. However, sunlight, high temperatures, chemical treatments, and wear and tear over time begin to break down this protective layer. The scales lift upwards, their edges break, and the hair's surface becomes rough. Under a microscope, a damaged strand of hair resembles an old roof damaged by storms. This is why hair care products aren't just for cosmetic purposes. They often help make these microscopic scales appear more regular, making the hair feel healthier. But the most interesting feature of hair isn't just its outer surface. Inside, human hair has an extremely strong structure made of keratin fibers. Thanks to this structure, human hair can withstand relatively high tensile forces relative to its thickness. For years, scientists have been studying the mechanical properties of hair to try to produce more durable synthetic fibers. In other words, the hair you comb, cut, or style every day is an extraordinary example of biological engineering developed by nature. So far, we've explored 3 different facets of technology, biology, and daily life. We've seen the aromatic universe hidden within a coffee bean, examined the invisible architecture of the banknote we carry in our pockets, and learned that a single strand of hair is far more complex than we thought. But our journey isn't over yet, because at the next stops, we'll see how nature creates perfect works of geometry. We'll discover the crystal cities of table salt, the alien-like pollen of flowers, and how the dust silently circulating in your home is actually a small living ecosystem. That's when we'll understand much better why our eyes can only see a small part of this world. What we've seen so far has only been enough to open the door to the microscopic world. We've discovered how complex the structures of the objects we hold in our hands every day actually are. But now, we're going to meet one of nature's most perfect architects. We reach for an ordinary salt shaker on the kitchen table and choose just a single grain of salt. Our eyes see it as a small, white, shapeless particle. But as the microscope lens zooms in, this ordinary image gives way to a perfect geometry. The structure rising before us resembles a city of the future. Flat surfaces, sharp corners, and crystals aligned almost perfectly. Sodium chloride, the basic component of table salt, forms cubic crystals thanks to the regular arrangement of its atoms. Therefore, no matter how small it is made, the same mathematical order repeats itself within each crystal. Even the most perfect man-made buildings wear down, warp, or show imperfections over time. Yet nature creates almost perfect symmetry simply by bringing atoms together in the right way. Perhaps that is why scientists, when studying crystals, see not only chemistry but also mathematics and physics simultaneously. A tiny grain of salt that you sprinkle on your food is actually an invisible architectural marvel where billions of atoms are arranged in perfect discipline. Now we turn our attention to a garden. Most of us associate the yellow pollen released into the air in spring only with allergies. We notice the thin yellow layer that settles on cars or the invisible dust swirling around flowers. But under a microscope, pollen becomes one of nature's most extraordinary designs. As you approach a pollen grain, hundreds of tiny spines begin to appear on its surface. Some resemble sea urchins, some are covered with star-shaped protrusions, and others have geometric patterns resembling honeycombs. None of them are randomly shaped. Every protrusion, every groove, and every ridge has a purpose. These structures facilitate the pollen's attachment to the correct flower, its transport by the wind, or its sticking to the bodies of insects. Each plant species has developed its own pollen design over millions of years of evolution. That's why scientists can often tell which plant a pollen grain belongs to just by looking at it. Moreover, the outer shell of pollen is extremely durable. Some can remain intact for thousands, even millions of years. Therefore, paleontologists and climate scientists can examine pollen found in ancient sediments to uncover which plants lived in the past and how the world's climate changed. So, a tiny grain of pollen floating in the spring is not only the beginning of a new plant, but also a silent time capsule opening to the Earth's past. We've now reached the final stop on our journey. We're going to look at something that perhaps we all have in our homes, but often don't pay attention to: dust. We've all seen the tiny particles dancing in the air in the sunlight filtering through the window. We usually think of them simply as dirt, but under a microscope, dust is not a single substance. It's practically a living universe. As you get closer, hundreds of different intertwined structures are revealed. Fibers torn from your cotton clothes, synthetic threads detached from carpets, pollen from outside, fungal spores, tiny grains of sand, plant fragments, keratin particles detached from hair strands, and microscopic skin cells shed from our skin every day. All of these can be found side by side in a single dust particle. Research shows that the human body sheds tens of thousands of skin cells every day. A significant portion of these cells become part of house dust over time. In some homes, microscopic organisms called house dust mites even live in this environment. These creatures, invisible to the naked eye, feed on the shed skin particles and silently continue their life cycle. Suddenly, we realize that the dust we take for granted is actually a complex ecosystem composed of countless biological and physical components. That tiny gray dot we see on the ground actually holds thousands of stories from different sources. Now let's go back to the beginning of our journey. When we started this video, we thought we would only be looking at a few ordinary objects. A phone screen, a teardrop, a coffee bean, a banknote we carry in our pocket, a single strand of hair, a pinch of salt, a flower's pollen, and a seemingly insignificant speck of dust. But each one took us into a completely different world. Because the truth is, the human eye perceives only what it can see, not the universe as it is. The vast details that remain silently exist before our eyes. The microscope doesn't just show us smaller things, it also reminds us how limited our perspective is. Perhaps nature's greatest miracle is not hidden in towering mountains, the depths of oceans, or distant galaxies. It is hidden in the most ordinary objects we hold in our hands every day. The next time you touch your phone, take a sip of your coffee, or see a tiny speck of dust floating in the sunlight, you will no longer look at it the same way. Because now you know that this world, which is too small for your eyes to see, is far bigger, far more complex, and far more fascinating than you can imagine. Science doesn't just give us answers, it also teaches us to ask questions we never even considered before. Perhaps one day, you will look at another seemingly ordinary object with different eyes and wonder, is there an unseen universe within this? The answer is most likely yes. Because the world we live in is full of wonders we don't notice, and sometimes all we need to do to discover them is to look a little closer.